What up? What up? What up? Welcome in to another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis, back at it for another late night Celtics edition here after a unfortunate defeat to the Sixers, but we'll get into it. What's poppin', G?
Yo, man, it's weird. After doing the Bleacher Report stream that we did the other day, like not having the producers talking in our ear, not having a full 30-minute production meeting before the pod, it's a little different. But Bleacher Report was really cool the other day, man.
Yeah, man. For those of you that haven't seen it, the three-man weave, myself, Greg, Adam, we had a chance to do a spot on the Bleacher Report app, kind of previewing the Celtics' path back to the NBA Finals. It was really cool. It was awesome. Shout out to our Bleacher Report crew that hooked us up, had them in the air. We had a little sheet going, made sure that we stayed on time, interacting with the chat. It was a really fun time. I will say the only thing that always freaks me out a little bit is the view that they use on that. I feel like, man, they're right up in our grill here, and I feel like, especially you and I and Adam as well too. We're so used to kind of the setups that we have at our houses. Like you have that you have your sound studio behind you with kind of the checkered, and then plus like the Boston backdrop. I've got Dave Chappelle's prints. I've got a couple other portraits behind me. Adam's got like sometimes he's got that like I'm going to say this in like a basketball sense, that sexy green light that comes on, you know what I mean? Like he's got the mood set. This one, a little bit up close here, and it's like a little bit to the right, a little
Yeah, we
bit
had
to
to
the
like
left.
make sure that our heads were aligned and everything. It was cool though. I learned a lot.
Going back. I don't like
Yeah,
that.
no,
Going
that's
back.
cool. Hopefully we can do some more live streams for Bleacher Report. But that was, I mean, dude, I couldn't believe that we got that opportunity. It was awesome. Shout out to Adam, shout out to Bleacher Report for hooking that up. And hopefully we're doing more of those live streams
Yeah.
moving forward. Sounds like there's a possibility. So fingers
Yeah, it
crossed.
was a good time. So we'll keep y'all posted. Stay connected with Green MV Pod. Stay connected with my personal Twitter, Greg's personal Twitter. Y'all are probably already on Adam's Twitter. We know Adam's carrying the crew when it comes to the Twitter following here. So we appreciate y'all rocking with us. That was a good time. And now, Greg, we previewed it on that Bleacher Report stream of what that path looked like, and where we started was, are the Celtics still going for that one seed? Do they have a shot? Well, we said this on the last pod. We said it on the Bleacher Report stream. We got to kind of let the cards see where they are at the end of tonight. Well, you know
Mm-hmm.
where they are now. The Bucks beat the Wizards. The Celtics fall to the 76ers. So at this point, it feels like the one seed is kind of a done deal. And now it's all about just kind of securing that two seed. So that's where we are right now. We're do a check-in around the league here in a little bit, but that seems like, this is going to be a night that tells us where the rest of this week is going.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that, man. It was a long shot for the Celtics to get the one seed. It's pretty much impossible at this point now. So, we sat Jalen and Rob tonight. It seemed like they were probably going to stagger some guys. So I would imagine tomorrow you might not see Tatum in the game. You might not see Horford. Um, so it makes sense. This is probably long term the best thing for the Celtics that they get this rest. Obviously, you want that one seed, but we've shown throughout the season. I think we're something like 25-17 or something like that on the road this year. We're really good road team. With that end up at 41. I think we played 41 games on the road, so around that 24-17, something like that. So the Celtics were great on the road. We showed last year in big games we could win on the road. I'm not worried about going on the road and winning. I'm worried about this team being healthy. So JB, he definitely looked a little ginger in the last game that we were playing. Rob obviously has been an injury concern all year. So having them sit tonight in a game that did have some stakes to it, ultimately, I think it's going to be okay for the Celtics.
Yeah. Well, with that said, let's hop into a morning box score here, and let's talk about the game tonight, and then we'll look ahead at the bigger picture. So let's go ahead. Let's cue it up. Got ourselves morning box score. Philadelphia 76ers take down the Boston Celtics 103-101. And honestly, Greg, it was basically a one-man wrecking crew out there tonight. The potential MVP of the NBA, Joel Embiid, just dominant tonight. 52 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks. All of this while going 20 of 25 from the field and 12 of 13 from the free throw line. He had a little bit of help from James Harden, who knocked in 20. And PJ Tucker, man, hey, I was talking a little bit of shit on Twitter, and PJ Tucker came in and he Grant Williams us. That last fourth quarter, knocked down 3 big threes. He had 11 points. For the Celtics, let's go over here. Pretty spread out effort for the Celtics tonight. Derek White actually really led the way with 26 points to go along with 7 rebounds and 4 assists. Jason Tatum, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, filling up the stat sheet. Marcus Smart, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 18 points off the bench for Malcolm Brogdon. As you mentioned, no Rob Williams, no Jaylen Brown. The Rob Williams news came early enough in the day today that it made me think a little bit that this was more, not necessarily, I mean, it is injury management, but that it was more planned in the sense that we don't want to have both Rob and Al sitting the same time tomorrow when they play against the Raptors, because I know they still need, with this loss now, they still need to win at least another game or two to make sure they lock up that home court for the second round of the playoffs. So it felt like that was a bit strategic. You talked about your feelings on them being out, but you looked at this game tonight, it was just Joel Embiid.
Yeah, and we only have to win one more game, right? That's it. So it's either a Sixers loss or a Celtics win, and that's it. The magic number is 1. But yeah, Embiid was amazing, dude. There's been a lot of every single game, seemingly every podcast you listen to, it's reactionary, it's in the moment. So one game, after the Celtics blow out the Bucks, it's, oh, Giannis can't win the MVP now. And then Giannis beats Embiid and has a great game. And it's, oh, Embiid can't win the MVP now. And then Embiid has this in his last nationally televised game. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to talk tomorrow on podcasts like, oh, maybe Joel Embiid is the MVP because he put up 52 in a big game. Embiid was awesome. And it's okay that, Embiid, Giannis, and Jokic have all been awesome this season. Dude, that was like as fully realized of a Joel Embiid performance as you could ask for, though, man. He was hitting everything. He was completely unstoppable. The only guy who stopped him even for a possession was Blake Griffin when he stripped him on that one play. Everything else, Embiid just dominated. Horford, he dominated Grant Williams, Luke Cornett. Oh, my gosh. Poor Luke got dunked into oblivion.
I thought Luke was going to get Chris Dudley'd. That clip of Shaq where he shoves Dudley, and then Dudley has the funniest reaction ever, throwing the ball off Shaq's back. I thought that was about to happen to Luke Cornett on that. I mean, just the spin move. I mean, Joel was just amazing tonight. And the thing was, there were stretches of this game where, the Celtics were doubling on him just about as much as they could. And you saw at the end of the game, I mentioned it when I was going through, the recap there. PJ Tucker knocked down 3 really big shots that, he's been very reluctant to shoot all year. He shot 5 times in this game. 3 of them were in that fourth quarter when he knocked down those corner threes. And, that's what the Sixers are going to need if they're going to beat the Celtics, if they're going to be, fulfill whatever potential people have talked about this team having, which when you have a Joel Embiid, you, of course, always have a certain ceiling that you can get to with a guy who can do what he did. But there were a lot of possessions where, this guy was hitting fallaways, free throw line extended with 2 big guys and a defensive player of the year biting him on the armpit. And he was just hitting them without even a second thought. Like it was, to your point, this is the most realized version of Joel Embiid in a single game that I think I've ever seen, especially because, this wasn't a good This to me was an example of why I don't necessarily believe in Philadelphia, because I didn't think his supporting cast was going to support him enough for them to get that win. And, usually in games like this in the past, this is where we've seen Embiid run out of steam. He didn't run out of steam in this one. Now, can he do it over 7 games? I still have that question, which is a big reason why I'm a little bit suspect of the Philadelphia 76ers. But tonight there was no issue with that stamina, and from tip to final buzzer, he was just awesome.
Yeah, and if you're a Sixers fan, though, you probably don't feel good after this game. Even Embiid, if you listen to his post-game interview, he seemed kind of dejected that
he said it wasn't good enough. He said this wasn't good enough from us.
Absolutely, and it was not good enough. The fact that we were playing without Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams, and he had to drag them to a victory, and then they almost collapsed down the stretch where the Celtics almost pull out the victory when, from the jaws of defeat there. And I think that with Tobias Harris being Tobias Harris, 2 for 8 in 35 minutes, just like absolute no show. He did. I told you he plays good defense on Tatum, though. He had some good possessions on Tatum. PJ Tucker took 4 of his 5 shots in the fourth quarter. One of those was that air ball right at the end of the shot clock, and then he hits 3 threes in a row. So the Celtics are going to live with that. Tyrese Maxey didn't have a good game. Like, they need Maxey to step up. Yep. And then James Harden hit some timely threes, but for the most part, did you notice James Harden out in the court for them? You know,
I mean, he had 10
didn't
assists,
do that much.
So I mean, he had 10 assists, so they worked that 2-man game, but that's going to happen, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's passing the ball to Joel Embiid.
Exactly. Like, that fall away is just a pass from James Harden. That's where that's coming from. So yeah, I'm with you there. I feel, you know, it's, and this is the other big point, right? You mentioned Celtics only need to win one more, have the Sixers lose one more, and we're good to go in that 2 seed. Celtics win the season series 3-1. It's still a 3-1 season series victory for the Celtics on the night. And so, you know, it's really weird. Joel Embiid has probably his MVP defining performance, but I think as I was watching that game, I felt reinvigorated in my stance that this team doesn't scare me. It is what it is. Like, we were texting with one of our buddies here, and I said season 6, and honestly, there's a part of me that believes it's season 5, but you see what Joel Embiid did tonight, I'll give him 2. I'll give him 2 of those. And, you know, but I would lean more of the Celtics being able to beat this team in 5 than I would say that this series would even go to 7.
Let's just look at Embiid's shot chart real quick, because this is just insane. Just like, you got to appreciate greatness when you see it.
Oh, for sure. He's unbelievable. It's not him that I'm doubting by any stretch of the imagination.
But the thing about Embiid is he always gets the ball in his spots, right? He's always getting the ball right there at the nail. And when he gets the ball at the nail, that, for those of you that are watching, right, the nail is literally right in the middle of the free throw line. So this is where Joel Embiid gets the ball on, I would say, at least 40% of his possessions, especially off the pick and roll action there. And they just throw it to him at the nail, and he just does whatever he wants. Grant Williams did his best to body up on him, but when you body up an Embiid, he now has that counter spin off of your force that you're putting on his body. And as you saw, he did that a couple times tonight. He was just unbelievable, dude. And I think, you know, this is probably what the Sixers are going to max out with this year. They're going to have a Joel Embiid MVP performance, but they're not going to do anything, right? They're not going to beat us in a 7-game series. They're going to get it out of the first round. Like, they're probably going up against the Nets. So we'll definitely see them in the second round. But they're not going to beat us. The only way that they beat us is if we have injury issues, or if somehow Tobias Harris learns how to play basketball in the role that they have him in. It's not going to happen.
And so that's a big point, right? Like, no Jaylen Brown tonight, no Rob Williams. And I wouldn't particularly say that this was a great Celtics game. They shot 41.8% from the field. They shot 33.3% from 3. They missed, not including the intentionally missed Marcus Smart free throw, they missed 4 free throws in the fourth quarter. Like, this wasn't a pristine game. Jason Tatum, you know, got off to a hot start and then kind of really sizzled out. Give credit to Tobias Harris. Like you said, Tobias Harris did play solid defense, you know, but I mean, Derek White was having a great game. Malcolm Brogdon was having a really nice game off the bench, but overall, this wasn't a game where, you know, the Celtics were hitting everything, and they were right there. They were right there without potentially an all NBA guy in Jaylen Brown, an all defensive guy in Rob Williams. And so it's really hard in a game that Philly fought tooth and nail with their best lineups to walk away from this and say, I feel, you know, scared about this team. I just can't. It's just, I don't know that there's a world to feel that way, but let's focus on the Celtics here for a second. I do have a question that I want to pose to you. I mentioned briefly here, Malcolm Brogdon, who I saw a question in the chat here. Yes, I do think Malcolm Brogdon's going to win 6th man of the year. Been on that stump for a while. Greg and I's future finances may or may not depend on it. Not the point of this where I'm going right now. But Malcolm Brogdon plays a nice game tonight. 7 of 16, 18 points. Derek White was awesome. Call the florist, get more flowers. It's Derek White night again, just because he's just fucking awesome. I love Derek White. He makes me smile every single night. But here's a question I asked for you. Tonight, who would have been the 2 guards between Marcus Smart, Derek White, and Malcolm Brogdon? Who are the 2 guards that you would have went with down the stretch if you were Joe Mazzulla?
I had no problems with Mazzulla's lineup down the stretch. I thought Marcus was pretty good all night. I thought he made He made life difficult on James Harden. I thought he played a pretty good floor game. He didn't try to do too much. I agreed with most of his decision making down the stretch. Like, obviously, Marcus is going to look to push the ball at times, maybe where you don't want him to push the ball, but things work out when Marcus Smart is on the floor. And, I haven't had an issue with Marcus since the last like 2 weeks or so. I think Marcus has actually been playing really good ball. And if Marcus is playing really good ball, then he deserves to be on the court. Brogdon, he was good tonight. He had his moments. He wasn't really, I don't know, man. There were some times with Brogdon where he just doesn't see the floor like at all. And I think tonight was one of those nights where he got a little tunnel vision. And I think Joe saw that he just wasn't finding open guys. And, he did his thing. I thought Brogdon did a good job while he was on the court, but we need a little bit more defense, and Smart's a better defender. And I thought Smart was, I thought he played a better floor game than Brogdon did tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I thought there was a couple decisions that Marcus had that offensively, I probably didn't 100% agree. I don't think it was one of those games where it jumped out to me like, man, we got to get Marcus off the court. It certainly wasn't that. So I'm not trying to intimate that, but I was thinking at certain points, what would I prefer? Derek White is the easy answer. He was going to be on the court, right?
Yeah, of course.
He was awesome. He was the easy answer. But it more just got me back to thinking when we've had this conversation before, right? And maybe tonight wasn't the night that it needed to be a change, but out of those three, when Joe needs to make the decision for two of those three to be on the court, we know he's fine sitting Brogdon. We've seen up until 3 weeks ago when he seemed like now Derek White is not coming off the court, but he was comfortable pulling Derek White off the court toward the end of the game, even if he remained him as the starter as he's been for most of the season. But it still left me wondering just if that would be a move Joe would go to. And once again, I don't know if tonight was that night. I think Marcus was really good on defense. I thought offensively there was a few questionable choices from Marcus Smart, not enough that it was. Can you
think of any like particular ones? There weren't any that jumped off the screen at me.
Just a couple of him. There was a couple of his shot selections that I wasn't a huge fan of. This is probably a little bit earlier in the fourth quarter. And then I'm trying to think. There was. I'd have to go back, and I mean it's right after the game, so I'm trying to think of a few of the other ones. Just some of his driving decisions or pushing the tempo in maybe the wrong spots. Like I said, it wasn't so abysmal that I was yelling at the TV to get Marcus out, but it crossed my mind that hey, this is still something that I'm curious if Joe Mazzulla is going to feel comfortable going with a White Brogdon, because that's when the Celtics made that run right towards the end of the third quarter into the
with
fourth.
Embiid off the court.
Embiid off the court. That is big. And Marcus is a big part of that. And his defense was really good tonight. So I understood leaving Marcus, but it just made me think, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it as to, do we think that Mazzulla, if and when that time comes, there has been moments this season where we think that he should have done that, that he'll be willing to do that. Cause I just haven't seen it where he's been willing to just go White Brogdon and keep Marcus off. It's always been kind of White or Brogdon that's on the chopping block.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I can't really answer for Joe. I did like how he put Hauser back in the game, although it was weird that Hauser hadn't played like the whole game, and then he went to Hauser for a big shot. So I thought it was interesting that like he was willing to do that, and he called a play for Sam Hauser off of that pet end of game action where he has Tatum in the backcourt. They kind of ran some counter action to that. So it's good to see them setting up in that with a different option out of that same format. But, I don't know, man, like Brogdon, I like Brogdon a lot, but there's some games where I disagreed with more of Brogdon's decision tonight than Smart. I thought Brogdon made a lot of terrible decisions tonight. So like, I was actually happy when he came off the court, because even early in the game, man, like Joe ended up taking Hauser out of the game after 3 minutes of action. But in my opinion, like Brogdon missed him on like 3 straight possessions for wide open threes. And like, I didn't understand.
Yeah, he does kill the ball movement every now and then. I know there was one specific moment where he had Muscala to his right and he just paused with it and then ended up going 1-on-1. So you are right that there are definitely those times. And that's where, we've gone back and forth on the Brogdon wrinkle, where sometimes you need that wrinkle, right? You need a third guy that can just say, oh, I'll go 1-on-1 and get a bucket and I'll create in my own way, which is different from the flow of what's happening. But other times you need to be in that flow. You need to be in that flow state and continue that rhythm. So I do agree with that. It was more just a question for, as we look forward.
Yeah.
Is that something that could happen?
I think as a Celtics fan, you want Marcus Smart to be playing so good that he can't come off the court, right? Because Marcus Smart is that important to this team that if Marcus is playing like his best basketball, he 100% deserves to be in the closing five. It's just that he hasn't been great this year. But if Marcus is trending in the right direction, I'm cool with having him out on the court to end games because he's been much better on defense. He's important in this matchup against the Sixers, and I thought he played a good game tonight. But I would be open to, as I've said before, in the right matchup on the right night, having Marcus on the bench. And if he doesn't have it, that's why you have Malcolm Brogdon. That's why you have Derek White.
Agreed. And, overall, this conversation right now, I think, speaks to the depth and versatility of the Celtics. And when you look at them and the Sixers, I just think there's more options. We didn't even, like we said, once again, no Jaylen Brown, no Robert Williams. This game was, close all the way through. Celtics nearly come back and pull it out. It took a 52.80% shooting night from Joel Embiid for the Sixers to get their one win against the Celtics for the regular season. So if you're a Celtics fan, it's got to leave you feeling good heading into what could be a potential second round matchup with the Sixers. But with that, it's a busy night here in the NBA. So we're going to take a quick break, and then let's take a look at some of the games that are going on right now and how they're shaping the standings around the league. All right, Greg. So mentioned it right at the top here. The race for the 1 seed is effectively dead. Basically, the only route in which the Celtics can get this now is they win out and the Bucks lose out. So I would not expect that to happen. Doesn't mean it's impossible. Weirder things have happened, but it seems like that route is potentially dead as they were able to beat the Wizards tonight 140 to 128. Couple other, I'm just going to read through a couple notable Eastern Conference, sorry, in the Eastern Conference here, just a couple Eastern Conference notable outcomes tonight. The Hawks beat the Bulls 123 to 105. Big play-in implications for that, potentially trickling down to the Celtics. We had the Timberwolves beat the Nets. That's what we got to come back to here. Timberwolves beat the Nets 107 to 102. Cavs beat the Magic 117 to 113. In that same Nets vein, the Heat beat the Pistons tonight 118 to 105, and the Raptors take down the Hornets 120 to 100. So what that leaves us with, Greg, Celtics right now looking likely to be pretty secure in that 2 seed. A little bit of work to go, like we talked about at the front here. Right now, we're still looking at 7 seed Miami, 8 seed Atlanta, 9 seed Toronto, 10 seed Chicago, but it's getting tight. It's getting tight. It looks like Chicago's probably going to end up in that 10 seed, but Brooklyn's only a game ahead of the Heat right now. So we go into these last couple of games here. Brooklyn's got 1 game up, so the hope
and the tiebreaker, I think.
And they have the tiebreaker, right? Mm-hmm. So that is one of the biggest hurdles to this. But the dream of Brooklyn falling to 7 still, however slightly, still alive here. But does look like Miami. It's likely going to be Miami in that 7 spot. And then Atlanta and Toronto, who are the 2 opponents the Celtics are going to finish the season out with, they're really battling for that 8-9 seed. And being the 8 versus being the 9 is a pretty big difference with this play-in tournament.
Yeah, it's huge. If you end up in the 9-10, right, you have to win 2 games in order to make it to the playoffs. So if you end up in the 7-8, you only have to win 1 because you can theoretically lose your first one. Then you get a home game in the second game.
The home game in the second one is big too.
Absolutely. So I think the Heat, I still expect them to end up with that 7 seed. I think the Nets have a pretty easy schedule. If you want to look that up as I'm talking here, I think their schedule is pretty easy down the stretch. And then, a Heat Hawks matchup, I think is probably a pretty good outcome for the Celtics because we know we can beat the Heat. They're not fun to play, but I'm not scared of them. I just don't want to play them in the playoffs. And then I feel like we match up really well against the Hawks. I'm not scared of Trae Young. I'm not scared of DeJounte Murray. I think their backcourt's just too small and their wings aren't versatile enough to do anything with us. Although my guy Okongwu has been playing really good basketball of late. I love Okongwu. I think he needs to be on the court more for them. If the Raptors slide in there at the 8 spot, then, Heat Raptors. If the Raptors,
that's an interesting playing game. If you get the Heat Raptors, and
I would like to see that playing game. I think that would be a lot of fun, but I do not want to see the Raptors in the first round, man. They're too big. They're too athletic, and they're going to cause too much of a problem for Tatum and Brown, where I don't think they need all of those, like all that wear and tear. Like going up against the Heat, you get a lot of Tyler Hero on the court. Like against the Raptors, there's not a Tyler Hero that you can just target all the time. They have all these tough, gritty
I'll
guys.
take Hero and Strus over Anunoby and Barnes all day, every
and
day.
Siakam, like all day, every day. Like I don't want anything to do with the Raptors wings. I still think we beat the Raptors pretty easily, but I just don't want to see the Celtics struggle to that degree against those wings in the first round.
Yeah, on that Nets, and I was just looking that up. They have the Pistons tomorrow, and then the Magic Friday before wrapping up their season against the Sixers. So with those Pistons Magic matchups, and likely the Sixers being at that point, we should know Celtics and 76ers. If there's anything left to play for, they could potentially have 3 games left with teams that don't really have much incentive to win. So Brooklyn should likely stay in that 6 seed. But real quick, Greg, we gotta talk about it. So last episode, you had a great question. We did a little play-in draft. Rookie of the year belt. No Scotty Barnes. What's the deal?
What you mean?
You didn't pick Scotty Barnes as your boy. We had 15 picks, and you didn't even take him.
That's fair.
And to be fair, a commenter called this out. Not even me or Adam. A commenter put this in there. They're like, "What about Scotty Barnes?" And you're like, "I don't know. That's Greg's boy."
Yeah, I'd have to look back at the 5 that I drafted, but if I think back to the team that I had, like I don't know where Scotty Barnes fits on my team.
He's
right?
a tough fit, right? He's a tough fit. I thought about him for my team briefly, either as my sixth. Well, actually, it was 18 picks because none of us picked him for a 6 man either. So 18 picks, no Scotty Barnes. But he's such a unique player that it's as good as he is. When you're building a team, it's not necessarily if it's not the first place you go, it's hard to find when is the right time to go to him in that team building mode, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting is nobody took Zion either. Like the chance of Zion being there for the play.
I gotta get on the court, man. Like I can't do it anymore. Like you bullied me into putting him like 11th in our preseason, players.
And he was playing like it when he was healthy.
He was, but he does it for 25 games a year. Like I can't do it. I can't do it anymore, man. But fun night around the league here. Still got some games going on right now. Some late West Coast games that are still taking place. Lakers currently up on the Jazz. Thunder up on the Warriors. I'm not going to get into this because you guys are going to know the results by the time you hear this here, but some good late night basketball. So for the rest of the week here for the Celtics, they have a back-to-back. So as you're listening to this, they'll be getting ready to play the Toronto Raptors on Wednesday night. They'll have a day off. Another game against the Raptors on Friday night.
All at home.
Wrap up. Yeah, all of us at home. That was the final away game of the year. So that's really nice. Is that really from, man, this is going to be a long stretch at home for the Celtics here when you think about it, because they're going back from Wednesday. They won't play the first round of the playoffs until a week from either Saturday or Sunday. And then they'll have those first 2 games at home. So basically 2 straight weeks at home for the Celtics to get healthy, to get right. Looks like after tonight, they're probably going to fall into that 2 seed. And the path that we laid out on Bleacher Report, I think that's going to be the path that the Celtics are taking here to try to get back to the finals.
Definitely. I think those 2 weeks at home are going to be great for the guys just to rest up, get that home cooking, sleep in their own bed, and just get ready for the grind that is the playoffs, which is why I think we should rest guys. The last 3 games. We rested Jalen tonight. Like maybe you find one more game for Jalen to sit. Maybe the last game of the season, like nobody really plays. Maybe that's a JD Davison game. Maybe that's a Sam Hauser goes for 40 game. There's all these different options out there for the Celtics for that last game. But I think you probably want one more game. So the second game against the Raptors, just one final tune-up with your playoff rotation, even if it's just for like 3 quarters.
I was going to say, it feels like what is it, usually the 3rd out of the 4th preseason game or whatever, where it's like just for that half or 3 quarters, you're going, this is our legit playoff rotation game plan. You guys are going to get one last taste of game action, and then you're on the shelf until we take the court a week or so from Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting. You'll see a couple guys sit tomorrow. Like you won't see Horford tomorrow. You might not see Tatum tomorrow. Maybe not Brogdon. And then the next game against the Raptors, we'll have everybody. And then the final game, I'm sure we probably won't play many people at all. So that's kind of what I see. But one thing I want to talk about, dude, before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
You going to get the Tatum ones?
They're pretty fly, man. I like Tatum's shoes. Tatum's collection of shoes. I don't know. Are they all the Tatum ones? I guess I don't know. I know there's like the pink lemonade ones or whatever else that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
He
know how
debuted. I
that
don't know
is.
how
It
that.
like the Tatum one pink lemonade
I don't know. I'm
version?
not.
Yeah, I'm
Neither
not
of us are
sure.
sneaker guys. I don't know how that works. So I feel like at this point, I've seen 4 or 5 different pairs of Tatum's. I don't know which ones are technically Tatum ones, but most of them I've liked so far. I've thought about. I haven't looked at it. I'm gonna guess the price is probably something I don't usually pay for sneakers,
Hmm.
not being a sneaker guy. But I also kind of want to support. So I do think there's a chance I end up getting a pair of either the Tatum ones or maybe I'll get the Tatum pink lemonades. Really stand out to me. I really like those ones.
Yeah, I think I would probably hoop in the black and red ones, the ones that are like the classic Tatum ones, and
Yeah.
then I would wear the pink lemonade ones just like out socially.
Yeah, I agree with that. Did you see the commercial they put out for it
It's
today too?
great. I
Great
love it.
commercial. It was a
Dude,
really good
Tatum's got
commercial.
great PR.
Yeah. I mean, he's got Brett Hampton following him around, right? And then he's got the PR squad, man. We know we had when we had Amina on, several months. I don't know if this is before the season or in the beginning parts of the season. She was like, every time JT comes through, what is it, the JetBlue walkway or runway when they show them coming through the corridor, it ain't an accident. He's got the setup, he's got the look. And now you're seeing JT all over the place, man. He's got a Gatorade commercial. He's got Ruffles commercials.
He's
JT's
got a sub.
mainstream, man. He's got a sub. He's a superstar, man. He's there, man. He's getting there. And then this postseason, if he goes on a run, like that's just cementing himself as. I mean, he is kind of right now. So I was listening to the Mismatch, and they were talking a little bit about the new positionless All NBA that's going to be starting, next year, and with Wemby coming in the league, right? There's a world where, maybe 2 years from now, and you include Shea in this as well, too, where the all NBA team is just all foreign guys. I mean, we're counting Shea as a Canadian, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it's Luka, it's Wemby, it's Embiid, it's Jokic, it's Giannis, it's Shea. Like Jason Tatum is going to be the face of it, or maybe he already is the face of American basketball. He has a claim at being the best American basketball player right now.
Yeah, I would say he's probably a year or two away from that, but yeah, he's definitely you still got Steph.
I mean, you got Steph and KD, that's what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
you got Steph and KD who you still need to overtake, and then it's kind of him, John Booker are the three.
Yeah, they're the next generation
to take over.
Absolutely.
So that changing of the guard's coming. It's just a matter of time. So maybe this is the postseason where it happens. Is kind of the point I'm getting to, that this could be the catapult where he wins a championship, wins the Finals MVP, and this is your face of American basketball, Jason Tatum.
Yeah, so if he wins the Finals MVP this year and he goes on like a summer-long tour of just like proclaiming he's the best basketball player in the world like Paul Pierce did, we would actually feel good about it.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce is doing it. We're like, yeah, Paul, like you were on the best team, but you're not the best player in the world right now.
Paul was talking smack about something the other day, and it made me think of that, of when he did that. And I still remember, because this was the summer of 2008 when they won. And I remember, I think I was a senior. It was either a senior in high school or a freshman in college. Can't remember. But this is like when there was no podcast, right? And so when they won, I think Twitter was still in like kind of its earlier stages. And so I was just like, man, I need more content. I need to I'm just so excited for this championship. I got to figure out what's going on. And so I think I was working a summer internship at the time, and I used to go out in the blistering heat, sit in my, shitty RAV4. Hopefully the AC was still working, and just listen to whether it was WEI or Sports Hub or whatever. And I remember, I don't know if it was live or it was the day that he said it, I remember saying that. And as excited as I was for the Celtics to have just won the championship, just started howling, laughing in my car that Paul Pierce was proclaiming himself the best player in the world. It was like, bro, you ain't even the best player on your own team. That's Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, I mean, that's Paul, though. That's why we love him. And that's why we're doing the truth of the week or whatever that new segment is. We're going to keep
we're still workshopping it. Yeah, we're going to keep running that back. And we're going to wrap it up here, because we're going to keep running it back this week. We got some guests that are coming through. We got the final end of the season coming up here. So 3-man weave, we're going to have some more content for you. Maybe another coach's corner coming here in the near future. Got a coach's corner coming up here. So make sure y'all are sticking with us at Green MV Pod across it all, at Green with MV Pod. If you're looking for us on YouTube, unless you're watching right now, we appreciate y'all. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. But that's going to do it for our episode today of Green with Envy. So, Greg, let us know what we going to hear on the way out.
For my podcast listeners, you are going to hear some music from my band down here in Austin, Texas. We are called Black Sheep Optimists, and this one is called Skywalking. Good night, everybody. Peace.
Peace.